what am I? Ve'im lo akshav matai, and if not now, if not now, when? So there's that one.
Adelante pronto. Are you tuning because you love us?
Michael, your mic is live.
Oh.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is so wonderful to be back in the, I'm getting a little feedback. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute. It's so wonderful to be back in the sanctuary with Cantor Steinberg and with Michael Herscher tonight, and with our very special guest who I'll introduce later in the service. So you have to stick with us all the way through or you won't know who I'm talking about. And tonight is a special night because we are really beginning the process in earnest to prepare for the festival of Passover. Just as we need to take the next week to prepare our homes for the festival, we need to take this week to also prepare our souls for this festival. And so throughout this whole month, HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, has invited congregations throughout North America to take a Shabbat and dedicate it to talking about the situation for refugees and for immigrants, because that really is what the story of Passover is about. It's not just our story, it's our story of how throughout the generations, our people time and again have known what it has meant to have to flee and to look for safety. And so tonight, our service will sound a little bit different. Our prayers will be a little bit different than what you're used to. Some of the words will be in the Siddur in the prayer book, and some will not. But we hope that everything that we do together tonight will open up your heart and help you to see the world in a different way. And if you're not sure where to start that process, it's always good to start with the teachings of Hillel. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? Please join us on page 644.
Im einani li, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? Ukshani le'atzmi imani, if I am only for myself, what am I? Ve'im lo akshav eimatai, and if not now, when? He may not mealy, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? Ukshani le'atzmi imani, if I am only for myself, what am I? Ve'im lo akshav eimatai, and if not now, when?
One of my proudest moments as a rabbi of this congregation was at the beginning of February in 2017, when we were seeing the plight of immigrants and refugees just beginning to come into a crisis situation in our country. And our congregation gathered together, and we talked, and we cried, and we spoke of what our concerns and what our values are. And we voted to become a sanctuary congregation, to say to the world that this is who we are, and this is what we stand for. So let's take a little time to think about, what does it mean to be a sanctuary?
When one of us is suffering, we all feel pain. When one of us is stumbling, we fall again and again. All of us are slaves till all of us are free. Everyone needs sanctuary.
Beneath a broken street lamp, shards of glass and remnants of humanity linger on the sidewalk. A hungry child cries for food. A widow walks with tears in her eyes, but in her heart there is still hope for peace. When will the fighting end? Her children ask wearily. She answers patiently. When anger gives way to compassion, when hatred gives way to love, when darkness gives way to light. Promise me one thing, my children. Promise me that you will always act in ways that fill the world with compassion, with love, and with light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav Etzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
When one of us is hungry, we all can't eat. When words are not enough for us, we pray with our feet. We pray for the dreamers who pray for you and me. We will be their sanctuary. So let us set a table wide and long, where everyone has plenty and everyone belongs, where everyone agrees to disagree. Underneath this canopy, I will be your shelter, open on all sides. I will take you in and stand by your side. No matter where you come from or where you'd rather be, I will be your sanctuary. We will be your sanctuary.
We rise for the Barhu on page 146.
Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. We continue with the Ma'ariv Aravim on page 149. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
ואהבת לרעך כמוך ואהבת לרעך כמוך זה כלל גדול בתורה זה כלל גדול בתורה. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. This is the teaching of our Torah. This is the teaching of our Torah. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. זה כלל גדול בתורה זה כלל גדול בתורה. ואהבת לרעך כמוך ואהבת.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malkuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malkuto Leolam Va'ed.
While we usually chant the Ve'ahavta in Hebrew, it's important sometimes to offer the prayer in English, to remind ourselves the purpose of the prayer and why we are supposed to say it each and every day. And so you'll find most of the words on page 154 in English, a little bit different, but most of them will be there. And so if you know this version, please join with us.
Love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind.
And
and these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart, shall be in your heart. Teach them faithfully unto your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise. Bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be a symbol between your eyes, and write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, and upon your gates. Teach them faithfully unto your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise.
So often when we tell the story of the Exodus, we tell it only as the story of our people leaving Egypt. But that's not the story that the Torah tells. The Torah teaches us that it was a mixed multitude that left Egypt. What does that mean? Why does the Torah remind us of that? Rabbi Ahuva Sachs wrote this midrash to help us understand. The mixed multitude. They weren't Israelites, our neighbors down the way, but they were slaves, just like us. I asked their son if he could keep a secret. He nodded, so I told him about what my mother told me. We're leaving Egypt tomorrow, all of us. Pharaoh has abused us long enough, and we're not going to take it anymore. I've already packed my bag. There's actually nothing in it except a day's supply of matzah. We don't have time or money for anything more. Can I come too? Asked the neighbor boy. I'll ask my mom, I said. Instead of a simple yes or no, I got a whole lecture. But my mother is right. Your freedom is the same as my freedom. And yes, we are all in this together. We cannot march to the promised land alone. And so as our ancestors crossed over the sea from slavery to freedom, we did so with all others who yearn to be free. Then and now, we stand and celebrate with all those who have made it to freedom and who still dream to dance by our sides. We continue on page 158.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever had. Redemption song. Malekutecha ra'u vanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam Ze'eli Anu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever can. Redemption song, redemption song, redemption song. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך שמו
גאל ישראל.
Thousands of years ago, as our people wandered in the desert, not still enslaved, but not yet free, we did not leave Egypt with shelters to construct in this desert, in this wilderness, and instead had to rely on God each night as we laid down to create a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace above our heads. Each fall, as the air begins to get cold and crisp and damp, we construct those shelters again so that we'll never forget what it was like when it was us who had to sleep outside with the dew on our face and in our hair, with the sound of animals and things that scare us floating through the night. We do that each and every year so that when we look out, and whether it's by the side of the freeway and we see people without homes, or we look on our television screens at the borders of our country, and we see families huddling together, seeking shelter and safety, we are supposed to remember that just as God built shelters for us, God was teaching us how to create shelters for others. And so, as we prepare for Passover, let's ask ourselves, what have we done to help those who are seeking a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace, a home where they do not need to be afraid anymore? Page 160.
Ashkivein Adonai Elohein L'shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. Ashkivein Adonai Elohein L'shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim.
Sometimes I lay under the moon and I thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play one day,
One day,
one day,
one
one day,
one
one day, one day, one day,
Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom
one day,
V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim.
one day,
Adonai
one day,
Eloheinu ולשלום,
One day,
והעמידנו
one day.
שומרנו לחיים.
We began the service with the words of Hillel. We sometimes overlook the last line. If not now, when? He reminds us it's not enough to talk. Now is the time to act.
If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, if not now, tell me when. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. Although there will be struggle, we'll make the change we can. If not now, if not now, tell me when. I may never see the promised land. I may never see the promised land. And yet we'll take the journey and we'll walk it hand in hand. If not now, if not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, if not now, tell me when. So we'll work it till it's done. Every daughter, every son, every soul that ever longed for something better, something brighter. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. But miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, if not now, tell me when. But miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, if not now, tell me when.
We rise for the tefillah beginning on page 164.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ulfia tehillatcha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Bekonei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastevot B'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham Bezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mekayeh hakol, Atah Rab le'oshia. Mashiv haruach umorid Hashem. Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mekayeh hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofei chonim, Umatir atzurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Mi chamocha ba'gevurot, Umido melach, Melech menit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neman atah lachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
We continue praying privately from page 172 through 180, either standing or sitting, as is your custom.
Ose shalom bimroma, Uya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, Uya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, Uya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, Uya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen ve'imru amen.
Even as we are rejoicing that vaccines are getting out and people are finally getting to a place where there is more safety, it's important for us to remember at this time how much work still needs to be done, how much more has to be done to protect the health of all people, not just those who are dealing with COVID, but all who are ill and all who care for them. So we take some time to turn our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers towards those who are in need of a refuah shlema, a renewal of body and a renewal of spirit. And as we offer this prayer, you are welcome to write the names of your loved ones whom you are praying for tonight into the chat as well, so we could join their names with the names of our loved ones who we're praying for tonight. We continue on page 371.
Misheberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
As I said at the beginning of the service, a week from tomorrow night, we will begin celebrating the festival of Passover. The story of Passover is the story of fleeing oppression and cruelty. It is the story of running away in the middle of the night, running towards freedom, with nothing but a dream that either we or our children might have a better life. This is the seminal story of Judaism. It is the story that has shaped how we see ourselves and our role in the world. It is the story of every refugee. This is the story that we are also commanded to teach door to door from generation to generation, lest we forget what our people have endured and we allow our hearts to grow hard against those who are vulnerable, just as Pharaoh's heart grew hard against us. I am the daughter of an immigrant and the great-grandchild of immigrants. Of all of my parents and grandparents, only one was a native English speaker. When I celebrate Passover, I remember not only my ancient ancestors who courageously ran towards a better life, I remember how many generations since then have also had to do the same thing, to risk everything to go to a new land so that I could be as lucky as I am to live the life I have in this land. When I look into the face of an immigrant, I see my family, because that is what my faith demands me to do. The work our congregation engages in to assist immigrants and refugees is holy work. Throughout the Torah, we are commanded again and again and again, 36 times, to welcome the stranger, to love the stranger, to help the stranger, to treat the stranger exactly the same as the homeborn, and to always remember what it felt like when we were the strangers. But our congregation does not do this work by ourselves. We are blessed to have many allies, many partners who care just as deeply as we do. And one of those groups that we are lucky to work with is called NorCal Resist. Our guest speaker tonight is Jane Dunnington, one of the dedicated volunteers from NorCal Resist. She grew up far from Sacramento, just outside of Chicago, in the rural Illinois area, alongside the children of many Eastern Europeans who had been displaced by the Second World War, but had found safety and refuge in the United States. She went to high school during the Civil Rights Movement and was deeply affected by it. In college, activism about the war, women's rights, and civil rights for minorities was all a part of becoming an adult. And those values fueled her throughout her professional life as well. In 2012, Jane and her husband moved to Auburn from Washington, D.C., so that they could be near their grandchildren, both here and in the Bay Area. But she had spent a lifetime working in D.C., in an area that she did not anticipate. With a master's in sociology, she never expected to spend most of her life working in retail. But it wasn't just any retail. She worked as a director for the Container Store. And the Container Store appealed to her because it didn't do things the way other businesses did. The founders of it founded their company not only with the intent to sell the best designed and functional organizational products for homes, but to do so while running a business that was in tune with their beliefs. This meant hiring people based on their values and potential, running their business in a non-hierarchical structure, inverting the usual business priorities of focus, and rather than taking care of first the shareholders, second the customers, and then the employees, the Container Store decided to take care of its employees first. And if you were like me and a big fan of the store, you know that this business model works, that you can run a business and still be ethical. They applied the term conscious capitalism to what they were doing. Can you imagine what our country would look like if more businesses worked on the same model? Now that she's retired and has the time to volunteer, Jane has been generous with her time in working with NorCal Resist. She began gradually in 2017 as an accompaniment volunteer and is now spending many hours on a number of different NorCal projects. The largest is called the Accompaniment Program, which she took over this last September. She has found great meaning in her work with NorCal Resist, and while some of the tasks might at first seem mundane, through every single act, they are building relationships, trust, and community. And they are truly doing the holy work that we are commanded to do of helping the stranger. It is my pleasure to be able to share the Bima tonight with Jane Dunnington. Let me move some stuff around real quick.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Jane Dunnington, and I volunteer as the accompaniment coordinator for NorCal Resist. I want to thank Rabbi Alfie, Congregation B'nai Israel, and Hayas for organizing the Refugee Asylum Shabbat service. I am honored to speak at a sanctuary congregation and to have the opportunity to share what we at NorCal Resist do. Repairing the world for asylum seekers and refugees is a beautiful way of summing it up. NorCal Resist began in 2016 in response to the Trump administration's increasingly harsh policies on immigration, especially for those from Central America, Mexico, and certain predominantly Muslim companies. It was begun by Pablo, Autumn, and Ruth. With the administration deliberately perpetuating a myth of the dangerous other, and then targeting them as deserving inhumane treatment, we felt a need to speak up, organize, and assist asylum seekers and the undocumented. We all know how dangerous this scapegoating propaganda can be. We are an all-volunteer nonprofit funded by donations and grants. In pre-COVID times, we focused on accompaniment of asylum seekers to immigration lawyers, court appearances, and ICE check-ins. In doing this, we provided not only transportation, but moral support and sometimes advocacy. Accompaniers provide assistance navigating these processes and bureaucracies and are a friendly, supportive presence during often stressful appointments. Some of our additional NorCal Resist programs that you can be involved in are bonding people out of detention, post-detention services, helping with job applications, insurance documentation, all the things it takes to become established in a new country. We have break light clinics and community grocery distributions. We have pro se clinics to complete asylum and work permit applications. We have day laborer outreach. We do legislation analysis and response. We have in the past done trips to the border to assist those on the other side, and fundraising, of course. Since COVID restrictions and precautions began, huge numbers of asylum seekers and undocumented folks have been laid off from their jobs. They are the most vulnerable, and they're at the level that gets laid off the most. They're not eligible for any government programs like unemployment or food stamps. So in March of 2020, we began focusing on direct aid for food and rent assistance. We have raised and distributed over $750,000 in direct aid cash in this past year to about 3,000 families. We also offer free drive-through food distributions, working with the Sacramento Food Bank and other organizations. And weekly, we purchase fresh groceries and deliver them via COVID-safe porch drops to families with urgent needs. How NorCal Resist has come to host 3 families. Asylum seekers are released from detention on the basis of having family to join or an official sponsor. Those who do not benefit from being sponsored need community support, especially during COVID. The 3 families we host were all released from the Carnes Detention Center in Texas and needed a group like ours to guarantee their financial support. The 3 families who are here in Sacramento are Freddie and Rosa, and Serafina will introduce them.
Hi guys, my name is Serafina.
Oh.
It's my favorite. This is my
Good.
brother. And your name is Andre. It's my mom. Your name is Rosa. It's my father. Your name is Freddie. I'm from Angola. Thank you.
Okay.
Very nice.
Freddie and Rosa are from Angola, as Serafina told you. They speak Lingala, Portuguese, and some Spanish. Their children are Serafina, who is 13, and Andre, who is 9. Freddie was a barber, and they loved going to the snow, as you can see. Our second family came from Benin. They speak Yoruba, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and some English. They are Yusuf, Rodiath, and their son Momo, who's 3. Yusuf has an accounting degree. Our volunteers have taken them to Calaveras Big Trees Park, among other outings. In November, a family from Haiti was released to us. Jean, Marie, and their 2 daughters, Sherwood, 2.5, and Francesca, now 5 months. They speak Haitian Creole, French, and some Spanish. They just relocated to Florida last week to be near extended family. However, we already have groups contacting us to host more families. What do we do for our hosted families? We support them financially. We rent them an apartment and furnish it, help them set up housekeeping, provide them with a community, and assist them with everything from school registration to Medi-Cal applications, doctor's visits, weekly grocery shopping, ESL classes, and these outings to get them out of their house during COVID and enjoy some of Northern California. While a lot of these things may sound straightforward, there are many hurdles one doesn't realize. A few examples. Being on hold for over an hour when you have a phone with limited minutes. A few calls like this can use up an entire month's worth of your minutes. Emergency Medi-Cal, while helpful, means adults need to go to the ER for any medical treatment or pay out of pocket. Then there are letters from ICE in English to understand and many barriers which pop up, and they ask us for guidance on these things. We've connected all these families with immigration attorneys who are preparing their asylum applications and declarations. They are very eager to begin working as soon as COVID restrictions allow. We offer them English as a second language classes via Zoom twice a week, and the older children are currently in school online. All of these families pass through Central or Latin America, sometimes residing for months or more than a year before being able to reach the U.S. to request asylum. If you are wondering why these families could enter the U.S. with thousands of asylum seekers forced to stay in Mexico, CBP has stated that it does not subject individuals to the Migrant Protection Program, also known as Remain in Mexico, from countries where Spanish is not the primary language. That's why these families were able to enter the United States. For context, here's a brief outline of the current asylum process. Asylum seekers, when allowed to enter the U.S. at the border, are provisionally accepted or rejected based on credible fear grounds by a CBP agent, not by an immigration judge. Note, asylum seeking is a legal and civil process. It is not a crime. These steps have been made much more difficult and criminalized by the former administration. If they're allowed to enter, they go to a processing for 3 to 4 days, held in the icebox, as they call it, where the temperature is kept in the 40s. You're only allowed one light covering, and you're given foil blankets. After processing, if they can be released to a family or a sponsor, if they cannot be released to a family or sponsor, they're sent to a detention facility. As you know, many hundreds of children have been involuntarily separated from their parents and sent to facilities in other parts of the country. How are asylum seekers released from detention? Immigration judges set a bond amount for release from detention. This is an arbitrary process, and bonds range from a few thousand to $80,000 or more, most often in the tens of thousands of dollars. These are not criminal bonds. They are the price paid to be released from detention. Once released from detention, asylum seekers must wear an electronic ankle monitor and report in person to an ICE agency monthly. They are considered to be on a deportation list until their application for asylum is granted. The I-589 document, which is called Application for Asylum and for Withholding of Removal, must be submitted within 1 year of entry. It requires an immigration attorney. There are currently an inadequate supply of immigration attorneys, particularly at low or no cost. That's another thing we frequently pay for. This is why we also hold pro se clinics where attorney-trained volunteers prepare the documents with the applicants. These take multiple hours to go through and create. They are then reviewed by a group of immigration attorneys. Asylum seekers also must make court appearances at various stages of the process. Actual granting of asylum status can take a number of years. What is needed, and what can you do? Here's an illustration of why we volunteer. Last week, a NorCal Resist member posted this, and it really grabbed my attention. She said, "Maybe 2 years ago, we had an action at ICE, and Ruth spotted a lady crying on a bench, so she went over to talk to her. She said her name is Rosa, and she explained that she had just learned she was being deported that day and didn't know what to do with her children. So Ruth gets Rosa in the car. We take her to the California Rural Legal Aid Fund and barge in on the attorneys. They help Rosa get a stay of deportation. We got her funds. We took her shopping for food, got backpacks for her kids and school things. Today, 2 years later, we learned that she had just won her asylum case. And she wanted to thank Ruth and NorCal Resist for intervening that day she was outside ICE crying. So you can see why we become committed. I'd mentioned that NorCal Resist is an all-volunteer nonprofit. This means we have virtually no overhead except costs such as postage and printed materials. All money goes directly to those we assist. We rely on volunteers much like you to accompany, raise funds, hold clinics, post bonds, and virtually anything else we find is needed. Compassion, flexibility, initiative, and persistence are great attributes to have. You do not need to speak another language to work with asylum seekers. We all use Google Translate on our cell phones. The people we accompany are very patient about communication, and your friendly face and support speaks volumes. Getting to know these families and seeing the impact of our efforts is extremely gratifying. Our goal is to help asylum seekers towards self-sufficiency and empowerment. This means that, although they need our assistance, we need to remember how incredibly capable and resilient they are to have made it to the U.S. in the first place. So we let them take the lead and have them indicate how much help they need in any situation. Mutual respect is the key. We would love to have you join our upcoming accompaniment training via Zoom on April 28th at 7 p.m. The link is on the screen, but you can also find it on our Facebook page and our website, norcalresist.org. I look forward to seeing you there, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Jane, I was incredibly moved by the stories that you shared. Oops, I forgot I was wearing that. The stories that you shared, the people who you shared with us tonight as well. And I was really struck that all the work that you described is exactly why HIAS started over 120 years ago. That we tend to romanticize our ancestors' past when they came to the United States. They face the same trouble that immigrants do today. They came for the same reason that immigrants and refugees come today. And just as people needed to help our ancestors, we have an obligation to help those who are coming now. So thank you so much, not just for the beautiful talk tonight, but for all of the work that you and NorCal Resist does on behalf of all those who are seeking refuge in our country. Thank you.
When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a farm. I did what I could, and I called my farm muscle in my arm. For the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a shack I did what I could. I called my shack, break my back, and I called my farm the muscle in my arm. For the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a cow, and I did what I could. And I called my cow, no milk now. And I called my shack, break my back. And I called my farm the muscle in my arm. For the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a horse, and I did what I could. Called my horse lame, of course, and I called my cow no milk now. And I called my shack, break my back, and I called my farm the muscle in my arm. For the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a wife, and I did what I could. And I called my wife the joy of my life, and I called my horse lame, of course, and I called my cow no milk now. And I called my shack, break my back, and I called my farm the muscle in my arm. For the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could. When I first came to this land, I was not a wealthy man. So I got myself a child, and I did what I could. And I called my child free and wild, and I called my wife the joy of my life, and I called my horse lame, of course, and I called my cow no milk now, and I called my shack break my back, and I called my farm the muscle in my arm. For the land was sweet and good, and I did what I could.
I keep forgetting wearing it. Thank you, Michael. That was beautiful. And Cantor and I really missed you last week, so it's good to have you back. Really good to have you back on the Bema with us. I want to thank Jane Dunnington again for that really moving talk. I found myself going back and forth between wanting to get angry, to cry, and to laugh. You did a beautiful job walking us through a better understanding of what it is that refugees and immigrants go through this process. I also want to thank our entire Immigration and Refugee Assistance Committee, in particular. I'm trying to find my notes, and I've lost them all. Miriam Jaffe-Block, and I swear I have announcements someplace in here. Miriam Jaffe-Block and Sue Saunders, who are the co-chairs of this committee, do an incredible amount of work on behalf of our congregation. And they will be, along with the whole committee, will be hosting the ONEG tonight, the virtual ONEG, immediately following services. And it will give you a chance to be able to ask questions of Jane and of the committee about how to get involved, how can we help what we're seeing right now, and what can we do on a practical level here in Sacramento. So we hope that you'll join us on the Zoom ONEG following services. Unless you're a teenager. If you're a teenager, you get to have your own virtual ONEG, and we hope that you will join Kesher for the ONEG and Vibe, which will be in a different Zoom room. Tomorrow morning, Tomorrow morning, we will celebrating Passover. I'm not looking at my notes correctly. Tomorrow is the deadline for you to sign up for Passover, for the Passover dinner delivery. You're always welcome to make your own dinner. That's awesome. It's a lot of work. Or you could have Arla do the cooking for you and have fabulous teenagers deliver the dinner to your home on either the first or the second, or first and second night of Passover. But tomorrow morning is the final deadline to sign up. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, please actually do it right after the oneg tonight. Tomorrow morning, we will also continue with our celebration of Shabbat with Torah study beginning at 9:30 a.m. And at 10:30 a.m., we have both the meditation Shabbat and our bar mitzvah service happening concurrently. And I want to do a big shout out to our bar mitzvah, I can't call him a bar mitzvah boy, our bar mitzvah man, Leo Sakowitz, who will be called to the Torah to celebrate his bar mitzvah. And you have to tune in to see where he will be called to the Torah. I'm telling you, it's worth it. So come tomorrow morning, celebrate with Leo's parents, and his brother and his whole family and congregation, this wonderful, wonderful occasion. Both services are at 10:30. And tomorrow night, if you're in Busy will be doing a little pre-Passover party at 6 p.m., and you are welcome to join them for that. And then Sunday morning, it'll be our last religious school morning for a few weeks. We'll have a spring break afterwards. But on Sunday morning, religious school starts at 9:30 in the morning. Ketantan starts at 10 a.m. And at 10:30 a.m., very important, we will have our virtual new member mixer. We hope that you'll be able to join us for that. Don't forget to RSVP. It's going to be on Zoom, and we want to make sure you have the link. And you can see the link on the screen right now. We also invite you to check out our Passover Padlet. The link for that was in the Chadashot, and that will give you information for second night Seder hosted by the Women of B'nai Israel, our sisterhood, and it'll be led by Cantor Steinberg and myself. While my brother, who lives in Southern California, would like there to be delivery service for the Passover Seder to Orange County, it is teenagers who will be delivering it. That's a little bit outside their delivery zone. David, just call up one of the Alfies who live in Orange County. They love you. They'll invite you to dinner. Don't worry about it. This is what I live with. This is what I grew up with.
I have no comment.
Next Friday night, we will be having Shabbat service, but not in Oneg because everybody's going to be busy getting ready for their own Passover Seders. There will be Torah study and Shabbat morning service next Saturday morning, even though Passover is that night. We hope we will join you for that. And again, we hope that you'll be able to join us for the second night Seder. Please look at the Chadashot for details, information, and all of the links for these events and others that are coming up. They'll always give you the most updated information. And now we continue with our service with the Elenu on page 586. But you'll notice the Elenu we're doing tonight will be a little bit different than how we normally do it. For those of you who remember our wonderful guest musician for Shabbat Shirah, Dan Nichols helps us to understand the Elenu in a new way, to not just take it for granted by singing it in the Hebrew, but to really listen and to pay attention to the message of this prayer. Page 586.
It's up to us to call ourselves to task, to sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption. It's what we were freed to do. For what's the point of being here if we're not moved to change our ways? Aleinu l'shabeach, it's time to live our praise. We are carrying the stories of the ones who came before. What stories will be told of us when we are here no more? We commit ourselves to action. It brings meaning to our days. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. It's up to us to own the vision. We are an answer to a call. It's up to us to live the words we speak for the benefit of all. It's up to us to bow down deeply. There's a broken world to raise. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. Va'anachnu kore'im umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
I understand from Ryan that there was another question that came in at the end of the announcements about the Sisterhood Seder. My other brother wanted to know if Burlingame in the Bay Area was in the delivery zone. I know that we have people watching us, celebrating with us tonight from all over the place. So I guess I should have clarified. The delivery zone is only for Sacramento County and possibly to Davis. And so if you were lucky enough to live in the greater Sacramento area, you should sign up. Arla's a great cook. Otherwise, just move to Sacramento. Doesn't that seem like the logical conclusion? Just move to Sacramento. On a more serious note, we take time in every service to remember our loved ones who have passed on. And 2021 has not been an easy year for many of our families, where it feels that each and every week we have lost more and more loved ones. And while we do not say Kaddish for our loved ones before the funeral, it is with sadness that I announce two passings that occurred in the last 2 days. A longtime member of our congregation, Bob Dinsfriend, passed away just a few nights ago. And the burial will be private, but there will be information going out, if it hasn't already, about the memorial service and virtual Shiva, which will be on next Wednesday. Also, sadly, yesterday, the beloved mother of our congregant, Judith Milch, her mother, Alona Milch, passed away yesterday. And there will be a Shiva service scheduled for next week as well. So please keep an eye on your emails so that you will be able to join us for both of those memorial services. And sadly, we recall those who have recently passed, and it is with sadness that we recall the passing of Christine Wells Avina, the beloved niece of Emilia Lorenzo and George de Cataldo. Also with sadness, we recall the recent passing of Mylan Buck, the beloved brother of Deborah Eula and beloved brother-in-law of Reed Coppell. Also with sadness, we recall the recent passing of Edwin Cohn, the beloved father of Steve Cohn, beloved father-in-law of Catherine Travers, and beloved grandfather of Adam Cohn and Nicole Cohn Kapoor of blessed memory. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories forever be a blessing. We also recall loved ones who have passed away at this time in years past. We remember Celia Bloom, Samuel Brannon, Mike Bueller, Lauren Chatham, Michael Clamage, Harold Croter, Joseph Dreyfus, Henry Glink, Jerry Goldfaden, Marilyn Gressman, Faye Grossman, Harry Grossman, past president of our congregation, Jeremy Hollis, Charles Hesse, Bruce Kay, Shirley Cronick, Daniel Lieberman, Max Marks, Ted Miller, Herbert Orkan, Sally Ostroff, Ludmila Pekeles Fedorova, Marcia Pereira, Helen Rosenbaum, Benjamin Rubin, George Saroff, Louis Schultz, Bertha Schuper, Josephine Summer, Mary Spack, Sonia Stein, Ben Ten, Phyllis Warren, Warburton Webb, David Wildman, Clayton York, Faye Young, and Saul Ziskin. If there is a name of a loved one that you would like to add to the Kaddish list, please feel free to add the names of your loved ones in the chat and to let us know who you're saying Kaddish for tonight. And for those of you who are saying Kaddish for a loved one tonight, I invite you to please rise and to allow us to offer these words of comfort. Hamakom yenechem etchem mitok sha'ar avlei Tzion v'Yushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We all rise to offer comfort to those who grieve as we continue together with the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv imru, Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olmei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei tekudsha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma ve'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, Amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and let us say, Amen.
We have come from near and far to raise our voice in song, and the more we join in the refrain, the more we feel strong. Chazak, 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 v'nit chazek. There is a power in this place and time. It shapes the rest of our lives. For when we return each year, we find a truth we can't deny. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. As we sing, we link ourselves to those who came before. And we're one with all those yet to come. Our strength, it will endure. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Chazak, חזק ונתחזק.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
גם לך.